Hello teachers, learners, and parents. Sir Jeff po, at your service. Alam nyo ba na meron tayong website na tinatawag na DepEd Commons? Ang DepEd Commons ay binuo upang gawing accessible ang pagtuturo at pag-aaral dito sa ating bansa gamit lamang ang inyong mga smart devices gaya ng cellphones, tablets, at computers. Dito ay maaari nating ma-access ang iba't ibang learning materials mula sa Department of Education. Meron itong mga interactive materials, electronic self-learning modules, at instructional video lessons mula sa DepEd TV na tiyak na makatutulong sa pag-aaral ng mga mag-aaral galing ka man sa public o private school. Walang problema dahil welcome ang lahat dito. Para ito sa mga guro, magulang at mga mag-aaral mula sa kinder hanggang grade 12, alternative learning system o ALS, at pati na rin ang special education. At huwag kang mag-alala dahil kahit walang load ay maaari mong ma-access ang mga learning materials. Tama! Libre ito. Ang kailangan mo lamang gawin ay i-on ang iyong data at buksan lamang ang iyong browser at i-type ang commons.deped.gov.ph. Alam na ba ng iyong mga kasamahang guro o mag-aral ang tungkol sa DepEd Commons? I-share mo na ang video na ito upang matuto rin sila kung paano gagamitin ang DepEd Commons sa mabilis at napakadaling paraan. Muli, ito po si Sir Jeff at kita-kits po tayo sa DepEd Commons. Paalam!
Magandang araw, Sir Wilbur po, at your service. Narito ang ETUlay upang gabayan ka sa inyong pag-aaral upang lubos na maunawaan ang iba't ibang paksa o subject. Ang ETUlay ay isang free online tutorial class na pinangungunahan ng DepEd Educational Technology Unit sa pamumuno ni Undersecretary Elaine Del B. Pascua. Ang programang ito ay hindi lamang para sa mga bata, kundi ito rin ay magsisilbing gabay sa mga magulang at mga guro kung paano nila ituturo o gagabayan sa bawat asignatura ang kanilang mga anak o mga estudyante. Sa kasalukuyan, ang self-learning module mula sa rehiyon ng Calabarzon at kilala sa tawag na pivot ang ginagamit sa ating ETUlay online class. Kaya ano pang hinihintay ninyo? Ihanda na ang inyong mga ballpen o lapis, papel o kwaderno at samahan kaming itulay ang pagkatuto para sa bawat batang Pilipino. Sama-sama tayong magtutulungan para malampasan ang mga hamon sa panahong ito. Halina't matuto kasama ang inyong online tutor sa oras na ito.
Magandang Lunes ng hapon po sa lahat ng ating mga masugid na taga-subaybay sa ating mga ETUlay sessions. Welcome to another ETUlay session. Tutor Lester po, at your service. We are on the penultimate week for the last quarter of the school year. And for this penultimate week, we will discuss the consequences of the postulates of special relativity theory. So this session on week 7 for the fourth quarter will help you explain the consequences of the postulates of the special relativity theory. Atin po munang balikan ang paksa sa nakaraang linggo. So what was the conflict between the Newtonian and the electromagnetic theory? So sa lahat po na nakasubaybay sa atin ngayon, kung natatandaan niyo po ang ating tinalakay last week, sa ano pong bagay nagkasalungat ang Newtonian mechanics at ang electromagnetic theory? Okay, please supply po the missing letter in the order in order to answer the question. All right. So the answer is the speed of light. So, so the speed of light is one of the conflicts in the Newtonian mechanics and the electromagnetic theory. So according to the Newtonian mechanics, all speed depends on the observer's frame of reference. na salungat sa idea ni Maxwell's electromagnetic theory na kung saan ang speed of light ay nasa 299,792,458 meters per second o 186 miles per second na hindi nagbabago kahit saan man nakapwesto at nagmamasid ang nagmamasid. So for this session, atin pong matututunan ang mga kakaibang pangyayari kapag ang isang bagay ay naging halos kasimbilis na ng speed of light, which was already measured at 186,000 miles per second. So before we begin the tutorial session, okay, let us read po the twin paradox test. So John and Paul are identical twin brothers. Growing up, they had the same sets of everything. They even have the same clock that ticks at the same time. John grew up to be an astronaut, and Paul grew up to be a scientist. John became an exceptional astronaut and participated in a space mission that searched for signals of other habitable planets outside the solar system. John's space shuttle reached the edges of the solar system, which is about 4.3 light years away from Earth in 5 years. And then traveled back to Earth in another 5 years, flying nonstop at constant velocity. Meanwhile, Paul turned out to be a great physicist back on Earth. After 10 years in space and about 8.6 light years in distance traveled, John's shuttle finally landed on Earth. The twin parents were shocked to find out that their identical twin is not identical anymore. So Paul looked like he aged more when compared to John. To add to their parents' disbelief, John and Paul laughed it off as if they expected what happened. So the question is this scenario possible? Atin pong babalikan ang katanungan na yan after our discussion on the consequences of the special theory of relativity. Ito po ang mga konseptong tatalakayin natin ngayong hapon. So these are the consequences of the special theory of relativity. So we have the relativity of simultaneity, time dilation, length contraction, mass energy equivalence, and the cosmic speed limit. Right? So sa special theory of relativity ni Albert Einstein, it is predicted kung paano masasaksihan ng mga observers na maaari pong naglalakad, nakaupo, o kaya nasa loob ng naglalakbay na sasakyan gaya ng kotse, barko, o kaya eroplano. Ang isang event o pangyayari. Ano po kaya ang mga pangyayari na natural o kaya gawa ng tao ang maaari nating maihalang tulad sa event na sinasabi sa special theory of relativity? Right. So ang mga pangyayari o event na ating pinag-uusapan po dito ay ang siya pong nakikita nyo po ngayon sa inyong screen gaya ng kidlat, paglipad po ng isang rocket palabas ng bundok, o kaya isang supernova o meteoroid na dumaan sa atmosphere ng mundo. May pagkakaiba kung paano natin masasaksihan, kung paano masasaksihan ng dalawang tao, halimbawa, ang pagtama ng isang kidlat. Atin po matatandaan from our discussion last week na ang frame of reference ay kung saan tayo nakapwesto habang pinagmamasdan natin ang isang pangyayari. Sa special theory of relativity, ang frame of reference o perspective ng isang observer ay kinokonsidera natin bilang isang inertial reference frame. Ang inertial reference frame ay kung saan ang observer ay maaring nananatili lamang sa kanyang pwesto o di kaya naglalakbay pero walang pagbabago sa kanyang bilis. Hindi rin bumibilis at hindi rin bumabagal. So para mas maintindihan po natin, ay atin po pagmasdan ang dalawang halimbawa. So ano po ang pagkakaiba ng dalawa? Okay, tanungin po natin ang ating mga tagapanood sa ating mga nakasubaybay ngayon. Hindi po ba kaya ang nasa kaliwa ang sundo at nasa kanan ang susunduin? Alright, just joking po. So, okay, so ang isa po ay hindi gumagalaw mula sa kanyang kinauupuan at ang isa naman ay nakasakay sa isang tren na tumatakbo po at a constant speed. Si observer A is at rest dahil hindi po siya umaalis sa kanyang kinauupuan, samantalang si observer B naman ay nakasakay sa train na umaandar pero maintained ang bilis nito. So it is running at a constant speed. Hindi bumabagal o kaya mas binibilisan ang takbo nito. Pero bakit parehong considered na inertial frame of reference ang dalawa? Dahil parehong zero ang net force na nararanasan ng dalawang observers. So may dalawang assumptions ang special theory of relativity ni Albert Einstein. Alright, so the first one, the relativity postulate. Right. So ang unang postulate ni Albert Einstein is ang relativity postulate. So ayon dito, all laws of physics are the same in all inertial references. So nakaupo ka man, nakatayo o kaya nasa loob ng eroplano o kotse, the laws of physics remains the same. Ang pangalawang postulate, the speed of light. So the speed of light in a vacuum is always the same. So the speed of light is always constant at 299,792,458 meters per second or 186,000 miles per second. And now we discuss in details the different consequences of the special theory of relativity. So simulan po natin sa relativity of simultaneity. The relativity of simultaneity says that two events separated in space or position are not possible to be seen simultaneously by both observers. So ayon dito, ang dalawang pangyayari na naganap sa magkaibang pwesto o posisyon ay maaaring hindi sabay sa pananaw ng dalawang observer o nakasaksi nito. So let us give this video clip as an example. So dito, we have here a train, okay, naglalakbay na train na tinamaan ng kidlat ang unahan at hulihang bahagi nito. So para mas ma-visualize po natin, okay, let us view this short video clip.
Interpretation is correct. The observer on the platform who claims that the strikes happened simultaneously, or the observer on the train who claims that the front strike happened before the rear strike. Einstein tells us that both are correct within their own frame of reference. This is a fundamental result of special relativity. From different reference frames, there can never be agreement on the simultaneity of events.
Right. So, ayon sa napanood niyo po sa video clips, so sabay na tinamaan ng kidlat ang unahan at hulihang bahagi ng tren ayon sa nakakita na nakatariyo lamang sa train station na nagmamasid habang dumadaan ang tren. Okay, para naman sa taong nasa loob, mas naunang natamaan ng kidlat ang unahang bahagi ng tren at sumunod lamang po ang hulihang bahagi. So, ayon kay Albert Einstein, wala pong mali sa dalawang pananaw. Dahil ayon sa relativity of simultaneity, ang isang pangyayari ay maaring sabay na nasaksihan ng isang observer pero maaring iba din naman ang nasaksihan ng isa pang observer. Ang pangalawang consequence ng special theory of relativity ay ang time dilation. So, bumabagal ang oras kapag mabilis ang takbo ng isang bagay. So, we can travel through time if we are in a fast-moving vehicle. So, bumabagal ang oras kapag nasa loob tayo, nakasakay tayo sa isang napakamabilis na sasakyan. So, halimbawa kapag tayo ay nasa loob ng isang spaceship na naglalakbay sa kalawakan, na may bilis na 50% of the speed of light, ay maaari po tayong makapaglakbay sa hinaharap. Dahil mas mabagal ang oras ng nasa loob ng spaceship kaysa sa nasa labas ng spaceship. O, for example, people at the Earth. But we do not have the technology to travel faster than the speed that I have mentioned. So what we can show as an examples are those speed that are within our reality. So panoorin po natin dito kung paano nagiging mabagal ang oras sa taong nasa loob ng naglalakbay na sasakyan. Okay, please watch this short video clip.
You theoretically use light to measure time by building a kind of light clock. Imagine a light beam bouncing back and forth between two mirrors separated by 6 inches. One bounce up and down is 1 foot and therefore 1 nanosecond. This is where it gets strange. Let's say you're holding your light clock on the side of some train tracks and your friend Karen has a light clock in the passing train. She's zooming sideways, so the light from her clock doesn't just go straight up and down like it does with your clock. It goes up and down, but the train is also pulling it this way. So it ends up following these diagonal lines. And those diagonal lines are longer than your vertical lines. In other words, 1 tick of Karen's clock covers a longer distance than 1 tick of your clock. But light travels at a constant speed in both. And if light travels the same speed for a longer distance, it must take more time. So 1 tick of Karen's clock is slower than 1 tick of your clock.
All right. So what we saw here, what we saw in the short video clip is a light clock which was used.
Karen's clock and Karen's breathing and Karen's heart and everything in the train is slowed down. Time moves more.
Okay. So what we saw there is a light clock which was used as a setup to differentiate the time experience between two observers. So sa video clip that we use as an example, 1 second of Karen's time is slower compared to the other boy's 1 tick of a clock, which is 1 second. So in Karen's perspective, walang nagbago sa kanyang 1 segundo, but it does change according to the perspective of the boy outside the train. All right, so this is the equation used in order to compute the time lapse according to the boy's perspective. So time dilation or right, okay, time dilation or delta t is equal to delta TO divided by the square root of 1 minus b squared over c squared. So delta t is the time of interval according to the boy's perspective, Delta TO is the proper time interval or the time from current's perspective. V is the velocity of the moving object, and C is the speed of light at 186,000 miles per second. So let us put the equation into practice. So subukan po natin isolve ang word problem nito na kung saan ay ating i-compute kung gaano katagal ang isang taon sa loob ng spaceship ayon sa perspective ng nasa mundo. So the spaceship is moving at 80% of the speed of light, which we can write as 0.8 c. So atin pong palitan ang mga variables. Ang delta TO natin ay ang 1 year sa loob ng spaceship na tumatakbo at the speed of 80% of the speed of light na pwede nating isulat as 0.8 c. Alright, so always constant ang speed of light at 1 c. So what we are looking for here is the time dilation. So, ang isang taon, from this computation, ang isang taon sa loob ng spacecraft ay equivalent ng 1.67 years sa Earth. And now, we proceed to the third consequence, which is the length contraction. So, sa length contraction, mas maikli ang isang bagay kaysa sa tama nitong sukat ayon sa pananaw ng observer na nananatili lamang sa kanyang inertial frame of reference. So, posible po ba yung mangyari? So, atin pong panoorin ang short video clip sa susunod na slide.
Contract in the direction of motion. So according to my friend, my car will shrink. How much? Turns out to half its original length. So it's actually just a little short car. Oh, look at your short little car. The car has plenty of room in the garage. The doors close simultaneously.
Right. Sandali lang. Okay.
Contract in the direction of motion. So according to my friend, my car will shrink. How much? Turns out to half its original length. So it's actually just a little short car. Oh, look at your short little car. The car has plenty of room in the garage. The doors close simultaneously.
Right. So habang bumibilis ang takbo ng isang bagay ay mas lalo itong lumiliit ayon sa pananaw ng isang observer na stationary lamang sa kanyang kinatatayuan. So the length contraction is not only applicable to the observer at rest. So this can also be applicable to an observer inside a moving vehicle. So we can compute for the length of contraction by using this equation. So the length of contraction is equal to the proper length multiplied by the square root of 1 minus v squared over c squared. So L is the contracted length or the length according to the observer's V's perspective. L sub O is the contracted length or the length from observer's A's perspective. And V is the speed of the ship and C is the speed of light. So let us compute the length contraction between the distance of the Earth and the ship traveling from the Earth according to the perspective of the passenger inside the spaceship. So like in the previous problem, the ship is traveling at 80% of the speed of light and the distance of the ship as viewed from Earth is equal to 10 light years. So right? So substitute po natin ang mga variables. So from the problem, ang hinahanap po natin ay ang contracted length according sa perspective ng pasahero na nasa loob ng spaceship. So that means our proper length is 10 light years. So the speed of the ship is equal to 0.8 c because it is traveling at 80% of the speed of light. And the speed of light is equal to 1 c. So substituting all the variables, so this is the correct answer. So this is the distance according to the perspective of the passenger inside the spaceship. So the distance of the spacecraft from that of the Earth is equal to 6 light years. Ang kaapat na consequence ay ang mass energy equivalence. Maaring nakikita nyo po ito, ngunit hindi nyo lamang po alam kung ano ang ibig sabihin nito. So according to this consequence, anything that has a mass has an equal amount of energy. Alright. So ito po ang pinakasikat na formula ni Einstein, dEm squared, kung saan ang E ay ang energy, ang M po ay ang mass, at ang C ay ang speed of light. Lahat ng bagay ay may mass, gaya ng kung ano ang nahahawakan natin. Halimbawa po, ang isang sakong bugas na ipinatong po natin sa upuan ay may taglay po na enerhiya. So kaya kapag hindi po makayanan ng upuan ang bigat ng sako ng bigas, nabubuwal po ang upuan. So dagdag po natin ito. Right, so the speed of light ay nasa 186,000 miles per second at hindi kayang pantayan at malampasan ng anumang mga mabibigat na bagay. So ayon sa equation, kailangang gumamit ng napakalaking enerhiya ng isang bagay bago pa nito mapantayan ang speed of light. Alright. So the last 5 of our 5 consequences. So this is the cosmic speed limit. So may speed limit po sa universe. So hindi po lamang sa mga kalsada may pinapataw na speed limit. So before Einstein, scientists thought that speed has no limit. Pero ayon kay Einstein, hanggang 299,792,458 meters per second o 186,000 miles per second lamang ang hangganan ng speed. So bakit po ito may hangganan? Alright, so ayon sa calculation ni Einstein, as objects travel faster, the more massive it needs to be. So mas lumalaki ang mass ng isang bagay habang bumibilis ang takbo nito. At dahil dyan, more energy will be required for it to move. Okay, more energy will be required for it to move faster. Na ibig sabihin ay mas kailangan ng mas malaking enerhiya upang maabot natin ang speed of light. And we do not have the technology and the know-how na magbibigay sa atin ng enerhiya na kakailanganin in order to achieve the speed of light. Right? So natalakay na po natin ang 5 consequences ng special theory of relativity ni Albert Einstein. Ngayon naman po, ating balikan ang ating mga katanungan kanina. So, posible po bang mangyari ang tinatawag nating twin paradox kung ang pagbabatayan natin ay ang kasalukuyang teknolohiya ng tao? Right? Right, so let me give you the summary of this tutorial session. So, balikan po natin ang mga natutunan natin ngayong hapon. Albert Einstein's special relativity theory predicts how events happen when it is moving at speeds that approach the speed of light. No two events appear simultaneously from the perspective of different observers. So time moves slowly for objects that are in motion. Distance appears much shorter for moving objects. And every mass has an equivalent energy, no matter how small it is. And as objects move faster, they acquire more mass. And finally, the speed of light is the absolute speed. So ngayon naman, ating sagutan ang mga sumusunod na katanungan ayon sa 5 consequences of the special theory of relativity. So explain why John looked younger than Paul when the twins' parents saw them after John's ship landed back to Earth. All right. So to answer this question, okay, you may post your video responses to the Flipgrid link that you can read on your screens. Flipgrid.com/26C797C7F. Right. Alright, so atin munang sagutan ang 4 na katanungan sa assessment to check whether we really understood the concept discussed in this tutorial session. So let us start with the first question. So what is special about the special relativity theory? A, the reference frame are called inertial reference frames. B, the reference frames are called internal reference frames. C, the reference frames are moving or accelerating. D, the speed of light can be obtained. Ang tamang sagot po ay letter A. The reference frames are called inertial reference frames. Number 3, why are the effects of special relativity theory not noticeable in the course of our daily lives? A, it's just a theory. B, it is only noticeable at speeds that approach the speed of light. C, it contradicts with other laws in physics. D, it is noticeable for objects that has an acceleration. The correct answer is letter B. It is only noticeable at speeds that approach the speed of light. 4, which of the following reference frames is not an inertial reference frame? A man on a car speeding up on a freeway. B, a woman on the street not moving. C, a man on a train that is moving at constant velocity. D, a woman in a car that is not accelerating. Okay, so saan po dito ang hindi inertial reference frame? So the correct answer is letter A. A man on a car speeding up on a freeway. So among the choices, choice B, C, and D implies that the observer is either at rest or moving but at a constant speed. Right. Last question. Okay, Jimmy and Timmy are twins and both have the same height. Jimmy was sent to a space mission to circumnavigate the solar system for 10 years, flying at a constant speed. After the mission, what difference can be observed with the twins? A. Jimmy will look younger. B. Timmy will look younger. C. Jimmy will be taller. D. Timmy will be taller. Tamang sagot po ay letter A. Jimmy will look younger. Alright. At yan po ang ating tutorial session para sa linggong ito. So sana po nakatulong po ang ating session dito sa ETUlay para mas maintindihan nyo po ang inyong self-learning module sa Physical Science for week number 7. So, one more week to go at may tatawid na rin natin ang isang napaka-challenging na school year. Ito po ang inyong tutor sa session ito. Tutor Lester po, at your service. Kita-kita po tayo sa susunod na linggo sa parehong oras para sa bata, para sa bayan. Maraming salamat po.
Sigurado ako na marami ka na namang natutuhan sa ating ETUlay tutorial session ngayong araw. Tandaan, ito ay hindi lamang para sa ating mga mag-aaral, kundi pati rin sa ating mga minamahal na guro at mga magulang na kaagapay natin para maituloy ang pagkatuto sa kabila ng nararanasang pandemya. Patuloy ding sumubaybay sa DepEd TV para sa mga araling ginawang video episodes. Mapapanood ito mula Lunes hanggang Sabado, alas 7 ng umaga hanggang alas 7 ng gabi sa inyong mga telebisyon. Abangan bukas mula alauna ng tanghali ang iba pang aralin sa ating ETUlay free online tutorial session sa English. I-like and subscribe at manatiling nakasubaybay sa ating ETUlay tutorial session sa DepEd Edtech Unit FB page at Educational Technology Unit channel sa YouTube at sa DepEd Tayo at DepEd Philippines social media accounts. Paalam!